Hello and welcome back to my channel, and today we're taking a look at Senua Saga Hellblade 2. Now this is a rather anticipated game sequel following the first Senua Hellblade, and it's finally here. Now let's talk about the hardware requirements first before we jump in into some very interesting things what they've done with this title. So the minimum GPU they want you to have is a GTX 1070 and an i5 8th generation, and for the recommended GPU they want you to have an RTX 3080 with an Intel i7 10th generation CPU. So very big difference in regards to GPU requirements, even for low 1070, and suddenly we jump up to 3080, which I mean, well, I wouldn't want to say that Senua has always been a very demanding title, but it is graphically impressive when it comes to it. Now, talking about the settings, this is where things get real interesting actually. As you know, we're gonna go with a 4K native full screen, no dynamic resolution, resolution scale at 100, and some things are adjusted. So let's just walk down the list real quick before this. First and foremost, we do have access to certain upscalers, and we have actually 4 of them. So TSR is Unreal Engine 5's native upscaler slash downscaler. It's temporal super resolution. Now in some cases this will improve performance, in some cases it won't. Now as you can see on the MSI we're running DirectX 12 right out of the box, so honestly I wouldn't be surprised if this game would actually run in 30 FPS. We do have Intel's implementation for XeSS, we do have FSR, and we have DLSS. Now even in this screen where nothing is happening apart from the animation in the background, if we switch to DLSS, instant frame boost. So honestly I'm kinda thinking, well, okay, here we are, because TSR is not exactly native, it's still trying to achieve some sort of downsampling here. Outside of that, we do have variable rate shading, which as you can see it's actually explaining what it does, and again it's one of those tweaks that will help you kind of get a bit more performance. And we have obviously NVIDIA Reflex, which you can enable if you're with a NVIDIA GPU. I'm not sure if this would also work for AMD. Now for the global preset we're going with the high, and through advanced, as you can see, everything is cranked out. Now why this is interesting is you cannot see it under the MSI overlay, but it actually shows you the system latency, so the CPU milliseconds and the GPU milliseconds. As you can see, this is a very big difference. So the GPU is actually kinda waiting on data a lot. So honestly I would say even in 4K, with all of this, I think we're gonna have sub 60 experience. But overall, the point I'm trying to get across, based on all these options we have, they've put in much more effort in giving users a control of gaining performance for this game in comparison to the first Senua, which would either run good or would not run good. There was no in between, and even after all these years it still runs a little bit rough around the edges. So as we usually do, we're gonna torture the 47 Ti with an i5 96K. We do have 32 gigs of DDR4, and let's just see how this looks and feels, because obviously we can always enable DLSS, we can always enable dynamic resolution, we can always do a lot of things to get above 60 frames, but actual performance out of the box, let's start a new story and just go for it. Also we're gonna skip recap, I mean nobody probably cares about the first game, but yeah. Okay, evade space sprint shift, that's all we need to know. So yeah, let's see.
Do I know you? It's been a long time. She made a promise to the one she loved, dead now, but no less. A promise. Not one soul more would suffer as he had. She carries him in her heart. His death, his life, will drive her on. She will forge a purpose from him.
Now obviously the audio is turned down, the streamer mode is on, just in case there's any copyright issues. I wouldn't be surprised if Senua is now explaining some very deep backstory lore or what's gonna happen or how she feels about you know, everything else in the world. But even now in this pre-rendered cutscene we have 30 frames and we're pulling 9.7 gigs of video memory and almost 12 gigs of RAM. So when it comes to this particular title, I think it's more about the overall audio experience and the story rather than the frames. You do get a little bit of combat, there's a lot of exploration. The game technically is linear when it comes to it, but in general, I would want to say that this, as an experience for people, is one of the games that you should at least try to play. You know, it's not like you have to love it, but it's just to appreciate the work the devs are actually putting in to kind of surface the mental health issues that some people are struggling with it. And I'm not saying that, you know, that's the only reason you should play the game. I would want to say if you like story-driven games, and even though this is not exactly as a game, this is one of those movie type of games. A lot of cutscenes, a lot of exposition, some choices here and there. You know, it's not like all combat and, you know, grind and things like this. It's more about kind of like just feeling the general vibe of the game. And yeah, you could argue you might need 60 frames for it, but in general, when it came out on consoles, this game was locked at 30 FPS, and honestly, same as with Ghost of Tsushima, it's a visual experience. It's not exactly, you know, combat is there, but it's not the main point of the game, so to say. And even now we're having like 35 frames, and I wouldn't want to say that this looks bad at all. This looks pretty decent, so let's get above water. So the game is not rolling credits right now. I do believe Senua will actually go up herself, and here we are. Oh, this is new fear unlocked. Someone's trying to drag you underwater. I mean, if this game goes hard at the very beginning, I must say. And yeah, GPU load is 99%, and honestly, it's kind of where we want to see the GPU trying to keep up with things. Frame time is a little bit high, but considering this is still technically a cutscene, I'm not too worried about it. Even though cutscene going down to 24 frames, 23. That kind of gives you an idea. Very similar to Ghost of Tsushima, to be fair. Cutscenes are completely, you know, out of border, but the overall gameplay might be fine. And I cannot skip this. So, yeah, there's that. I must say, this girl is in trouble. Okay, looks like we're about to be in control, and we are. And oh wow, this is this is worse than I expected, in all honesty. Usually the Unreal Engine games in 4K kinda really sit around 30 frames. We're below 30. We're pulling 10 gigs of video memory now, so that's why the requirement for 3080, and we're pulling 10 gigs of RAM. Let's see if we could perhaps move somewhere. Pretty sure we need to get up here. Oh, getting up is actually pressing F now, that's new. Somehow on-scroll tutorials is also non-existent, which I guess you need to write down the controls on the screen. They show it to you. Okay, fair enough. One can only wonder why she trying to climb and move when she clearly is out of breath, but hey, you know. I suppose in those times those warriors were not exactly fans of taking a break. Graphically, despite having a PowerPoint slideshow, the game actually does look good, so I would assume that in 2K perhaps we will have better luck with overall title performance, but I do not know, you know, like this is kinda interesting because I honestly thought this is gonna go a bit better.
There it is. This is only the beginning.
Right.
You need to
Oh, don't tell me you're gonna try to scale the cliff. Oh, of course she's gonna try to scale the cliff.
climb, Senua.
I don't think this is gonna go well, all things considered.
She's hurt. So tired. She's going to fall.
But you do you, girl. You do you. Yeah, I cannot say that playing this game on 25 frames is a good experience, and the game feels jittery and stuttery. We're at 40 milliseconds for frame time. This is wow. This is bad. This is bad. I mean, it's bad for experience. It's I think kinda expected, I guess, with such heavy requirements. And considering all the tools in our disposal to actually have more than 27 or 24 frames, we are kinda doing this the wrong way around, but this is the truth, so to say, of 4K native gameplay. You could argue that, you know, with a more powerful CPU that there would be a change, but I highly doubt it, because when it comes to Unreal Engine, I'm yet to see a rig that can play any title 60 frames. Like, probably with a 4090, yes, probably with a Ryzen 9, probably with the latest 14th gen i9, you could achieve that. DDR6, you know, all the things, bells and whistles, but for the regular folk, you know, for the regular folk who are, you know, kind of not upgrading to the latest and greatest every year, I think some compromises need to be made. But yeah, I'm just thinking out loud here how just because you have a 4070 doesn't mean you're gonna have a 4K experience. And it's not a slow card, and don't get me wrong, like majority of the games in 4K are pretty decent, you know, it runs above 24 frames, but this one just comes in swinging and says, yeah, not gonna happen. Also, Nvidia did release a driver for this game about 2 days ago, or 3 I think. Ever since the game was supposed to drop, it's like a common practice nowadays for Nvidia. They release the driver for optimized performance for the upcoming titles. But I'm pretty sure that it's not exactly the issue here.
Your hopes were always doomed to fail.
Also, the one thing I noticed, the subtitles were enabled, but they're simply not here for whatever reason, so we cannot exactly follow even the plot at this point. We're just looking at semi-audible moving pictures, which I guess the movies are kind of made in 24.5 frames when it comes to it, but watching this is fine, playing this is not fine. Just being transparent here. Oh look, 30 frames, hell yeah. Okay, this is not playable. Right, settings, graphics. Let's go with DLSS. Obviously, we don't even need to accept it, and
He clouds her mind with fear, but she won't stop. Stronger for
kind of jumping up and down, but this is way better than 24 frames. You know what? I'll take this. I'll take this. How about we just crank everything up that could help us? Frame generation should be on super resolution. Actually, let's put it on quality. NVIDIA reflex is on. Let's turn on variable rate shading as well. Let's see how much we can squeeze out of this title. Well, to be fair, we can squeeze out pretty much when it comes to it. Obviously, you know, you can tweak everything you want, and as I said, this is more an audio storyline experience rather than, you know, I need to have 144 frames, a Twitch shooter title. But do yourself a favor, don't play this game on 24 frames. Like, honestly, you will not be impressed. You will be very severely disappointed if that's the case. But then again, as I said, with all the tools in our disposal to improve the performance, and when it comes to the graphical fidelity, the details on the model itself is fine. We even have a little bit of reflection on her hair, some fur physics. Don't see any excessive artifacting. If you look at the edges of the volumetric fog, you can kind of see it's very blurred out about 5 feet away, closer to the edges where it comes over. But then again, how much time you're going to be spending trying to find all of that. If you buy games to find DLSS artifacts, honestly, every game has them. Every. It's just how perceptive you are to see them. But yeah, this is way better. And as you can see, the frame time has gone down. We're no longer in high 40s. We're actually down to 1312, which is the average frame time when it comes. Or should I say, it's not even a frame time. Well, technically it's frame time, but it's also partially system latency between an i5 96 and 4070. So this is where I usually would see the numbers being 12 up to 15. When it goes all the way to 20, I know I'm gonna have a bad time. But yeah, I mean, this is definitely, now it's playable. Like right now, this is absolutely playable. Before that, with 24, I don't think I have to explain it or mention it anymore. So let's just disable everything again. Let's go with the FSR 3, native AA, no vertical sync, and let's do NVIDIA reflex.
You don't listen to him.
Yeah, no, that's not gonna be good. That's not gonna be good. Also, FSR 3 with the temporal AA is a kind of stupid thing to do. Just realized that while doing it. Even this is actually better. So if your GPU does not support DLSS, if you're sitting on a 1070, 1060, 1080, I do believe FSR with the frame gen will be your best friend in this title. Then again, how many people will play this in 4K? Let's be real, on Ultra preset. I'm not sure if high preset can be easily changed during the gameplay. It might alleviate some of the issues, or well, it might alleviate graphical demand for the GPU, but then it's gonna cram it all on the CPU. So unless you have a decent CPU, I don't think you want to make that change, but perhaps you should just experiment around, see what works for you. At the same time, this game already has, it's been out for like 3 days, it's already got like 9 out of 10 reviews on Steam in regards very positive about everything, so it might be a good thing, which is kind of weird, but I think a lot of people have actually they were waiting for this game to come out.
Forget my stories, Senua. I am with you still.
I
A little bit of weird flickers here and there. But oh well. But yeah, anyway, as you might imagine, this is literally just me trying to get this game, see how it runs, and literally physically go from there. And then again, there might be a performance patch, there might be an update for the game. It is pretty much fresh out of the oven, so I wouldn't wanna bash this game too much, because as I said with the previous Senua, it was running very rough around edges. But if we enable everything that is in here, like if we just crank everything out, to be fair, we're doing pretty well, all things considered.
You were too weak to follow him. You ready to fight?
So yeah, anyway, that's all I wanted to show you guys, which I wouldn't even want to call it a benchmark. It was just I was very curious about this game's performance, but it was exactly as I thought. At the beginning it was even worse than I thought, but hey, Unreal Engine 5, it's only gonna get better. We just need to be patient, or we need to heavily upgrade our rigs, and then it's gonna be better. I don't know, one of those, flip a coin, flip a bunch of coins, and we'll see how it goes. But outside of that, it is how it is. Anyway, that's all I have for you guys today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Over and out.